Hello and welcome back. In the last video, I introduced to you the M-PESA integration bootcamp, where we are going to integrate with M-PESA. We are going to do some integrations with M-PESA for our businesses. So in this video, I want us to look at what is Daraja. We have a quick dive on what is Daraja. My name is Albert Njane. I am a software engineer and I will be taking you through this bootcamp. So what is Daraja? Daraja is basically a Swahili word for bridge or platform. It is Safaricom's M-PESA API platform that enables businesses to integrate with M-PESA for payments and financial services. Basically, you cannot be able to hit M-PESA ecosystem directly from your APIs. M-PESA will reject your request if you try to hit it directly. As a result of that, we have a Daraja, which is a platform or a bridge that sits in between your business integrations and the M-PESA ecosystem. So once Daraja receives your request, it routes them to the M-PESA system. The M-PESA system sends back response to Daraja, which instead connects with APIs or business APIs. So basically that is Daraja. Kindly note that you cannot be able to hit or connect directly to the M-PESA ecosystem or M-PESA systems without a middleware. It is impossible. All your requests will be blocked, and that is why we have Daraja, this bridge. So what are some of the capabilities that is provided by Daraja? We have authentication, so secures access token for APIs. We have API gateway, so Daraja acts as a single entry point to all M-PESA services. Transaction processing, it initiates and manages payments. Notification, real-time callbacks for transaction status. Reconciliation, tools to verify and reconcile payment. Testing environment. So you will realize that basically what happens here is the moment you call an M-PESA endpoint via the Daraja API, the Daraja sends your request to the M-PESA ecosystem. M-PESA does the processing and sends the data to the callback URLs of the API gateway, which is Daraja. The API gateway, which is Daraja, or the bridge, basically takes those callbacks and send them back to the business so that the business can be able to process those requests and maybe do some things like saving the transactions into the databases, etc. So many things. So what are some of the APIs available on Daraja? As I said on the last video, we have several APIs that are available on Daraja. We have SDK push. This initiate customer payment via phone prompt. So basically an SDK push is a merchant initiated type of C2B. It is a merchant initiated type of C2B, where the merchant initiate and the customer receives a prompt to enter the PIN and complete the transaction. We also have C2B, which is basically register URL. This receives payment notification, and basically this normal C2B is a customer initiated. It is customer initiated. Basically the difference between the SDK push and the C2B is for SDK push, this is basically a merchant initiated. So the merchant is the one who initiates the prompt, and basically the SDK push solves the problem whereby a customer will not need to understand or to cram the pay bill number or till number the customer just inputs the PIN. So STK push reduces that customer journey. We have B2C. This is for sending payment from business to customer. You may send payment from your business to your customer, like for example, salary payment, bulk disbursements, promotional payments. For the betting companies, if you want to do betting payouts, you can use business to customer API. We also have transaction status. This checks the status of any transaction. It checks the status of B2C, it checks the status of C2B. But for STK push, we have a special API dedicated called M-PESA Express Query. You use that to check the status of STK push. Kindly note that don't use transaction status API to check for the status of STK push, because it will not work. STK transaction status does not work with STK push. Because why? For STK push, you have to provide checkout request ID, but for transaction status, it only accept conversation ID, that is originator conversation ID and transaction ID. So this one is mainly used for C2B, P2C, etc. We have account balance. This is the API provided to query the account balance programmatically for the organization. We have reversals. This reverses erroneous C2B transaction. Kindly note that you cannot reverse other transactions using reversal. Like for example, you only reverse C2B transaction. A customer has made a wrong transaction. So for things like B2C, you cannot reverse via this API. Reversal will be done manually. You also have B2B, business to business. Basically, this one can be used to pay for bills and merchants from businesses, whereby you can use these APIs for maybe a business like Kenya Power, or a business like Kenya Power or any other business to pay bills to another business. That is B2B. We also have Bill Manager. This is a complete invoicing and reconciliation platform, and we are going to check how Bill Manager works. We also have pull transaction, fetch missed C2B transaction for reconciliation. Basically, people are not aware of this API, C2B transaction, and it is very, very important. We use this API for reconciliation. Maybe you have missed some callbacks. It makes some date length based query. So to fetch those transactions that happened for the last 48 hours, basically it is for the last 48 hours. Anything beyond that might not come. It is for the last 48 hours. So you fetch all the transaction that happens for the last 48 hours. You do some reconciliation. You look out of this transaction, there are several transactions that are missing in our system. You do the reconciliation at the end of the day so that your business calculation works well. So pull transaction is a very, very critical APIs, but I would like to point out as very important fact. Callback URL is the primary way of receiving M-PESA or payment notification. The rest, like M-PESA Express Query, transaction status, and pull API, these are secondary. They are secondary APIs that we use whenever we have missed some callbacks. So use this as secondary, not as a primary. By secondary, I mean I made a transaction at this time. Maybe my servers was down, therefore I did not receive some M-PESA callback. How can I do the reconciliation? You go to the secondary backup plan, maybe pull transaction. It will pull all the transactions to a certain pay bill or buy goods. Then based on those transactions, you are able to do some reconciliation. What are some of the key Daraja concepts? I want to explain several concepts. We have consumer key and consumer secret. Basically, this is your API credentials. We use consumer key as your username and consumer secret as your password. So you use this to generate a token that will be used to make an API call to Daraja APIs. Access token. This is a temporary key for API calls. It expires hourly, and we generate this access token with the help of consumer key and consumer secret. And all this information, consumer key and consumer secret, are provided on Daraja portal, and they are stored securely. So basically, this is like your username and your password. Please do not expose it. We have a shortcode. This may be a pay bill, it may be a tier, and it may be a B2C number. We have a callback URL. This is where M-PESA sends transaction results or payment notification. And it is very, very important. We are going to look at this in details. Asynchronous. Majority of M-PESA API calls are asynchronous, meaning they respond via callbacks, not immediately. So basically what that means is you make an API call, it hits the M-PESA via Daraja gateway, then M-PESA responds with an acknowledgement, but the actual result will come later via your callback. That is asynchronously. And of course we have Sandbox. This is the test environment, basically https sandbox.safaricom.co.ke, and we also have production environment. This is the live environment where you do actual transaction, live transaction, and api.safaricom.co.ke. How Daraja works. This is a simplified way of how Daraja works. The first thing is you get your credential. You register on Daraja portal by creating an account on developer.safaricom.co.ke. There you create an app and you get the consumer key and consumer secret. Then you call an auth API with those credentials, the consumer key and consumer secret. And after doing that, you receive an access token, and this token expires after 1 hour. So these are good practice, because once the tokens are left without any expiry, that is a security threat. So a token that expires after 1 hour is a good one. Then using that token, you make an API call. Every endpoint, every Daraja endpoint that you call, you must attach this token in the authorization header to send the request. Otherwise, without this token, your request will be rejected. Daraja then validates, authenticates, and authorizes. You know, Daraja is like a gateway. It's a bridge, a gateway that bridges your business with the M-PESA. So once Daraja receives those requests, it validates to check whether the data you are passing is correct, it has the correct formats, it does the authentication, whether this token is valid or not. Then it authorizes and forward your request to M-PESA. Then the M-PESA sends an initial acknowledgement. This is immediately. And this acknowledgement basically means that maybe, for example, we have made an SDK push. Daraja received the data. It validates, authenticates, and authorizes, then forwards to M-PESA. M-PESA returns an acknowledgement that we have received your request for processing. Not here. We have received your request for processing, not that your transaction has succeeded or has gone through. We have just received a request for processing. If that transaction goes through, we will later on send a final result via the callback. So, why Daraja matters? Number one, it matters for businesses, it matters for customers, it matters for developers. For businesses, you are able to automate payment correction. You are able to automate disbursement, that is salaries, refunds, real-time reconciliations, reduce manual errors, scale operation. For developers, you are able to get a standardized APIs, comprehensive documentation, testing sandbox, support channel. I would like to say this. Over time, there has been a lot of headache with the Daraja documentation and so on. And I think right now, I can see that things have been improved, and I would like to say this, that documentation is now good. I would encourage you to go through that documentation. Go through that documentation, study it, understand everything, so on. For the customer, to provide seamless payment experience. If I am a customer, I want to do a normal payment, I want to purchase something, I will go enter the short code or the till number, I will enter the amount, I will enter the PIN. A lot of friction, a lot of unnecessary friction. That one can be reduced by using SDK push APIs, most especially for e-commerce website where you are doing some payment via M-PESA. You don't need to enter the amount, you don't need to enter the short code or till numbers. You don't need to remember all those things. What you do is you select an item, an SDK push is sent, you only put a pin to authorize that transaction. Very seamless payment experience. Instant SMS notification. On successful payment, you receive an instant SMS confirmation, multiple payment channel, and so on. So I want us to go and see how you can get started on Daraja. There are three simple steps to get started on Daraja. Just three, not a bunch of steps. I have to do this and this and this and this. No, it is just three simple steps. Number one, register at developer.safaricom.co.ke. If you don't have an account, register there. Number two, create an app to get consumer key and secret. After you register, you will need to create an app. An app basically provides you with consumer key and secret, as well as holding some information like passkey, what are some API endpoints or API product you are doing the integration with. Number three, start with Sandbox to test your integration, then move to production when ready. I want to show you this. You go to developer.safaricom, just type developer.safaricom.co.ke on your browser. Developer.safaricom.co.ke on your browser. Then, if you don't have an account, you sign up. You create your account here. First name, last name, email address, username, phone number, password, and so on. After creating that account, you of course log in. Once you log in to that account, you will basically be logged into Daraja portal. There you go into the apps section, create an app, get the consumer key and secret, start your integration, and test your integration on the Sandbox. I hope up to that point we are together. So those are some of the simple steps for you to get started. But we usually recommend, when I am training or when I am sharing my knowledge, basically what I am doing right now is to share my knowledge with you with regard to M-PESA integration. I am just sharing my knowledge. I am a software engineer who have done several integration for quite some years, so I understand the pain point and I want to share that knowledge with you people. I want to share that knowledge so that you can use that knowledge to have a seamless API integration. I can say this, I am not promoting Safaricom in any way. I am not. I'm just sharing my knowledge. Remember, on this channel, Java Velocity, we have very many videos. And because as a developer, you will want to build some system that does integration to payment platforms like M-PESA, PayPal, Stripe, Paystack, etc. You will need some of this concept or some of this knowledge. So that is why I am here. In this channel, Java Velocity, there are various videos, Spring Boot, Java, and so on, where I have covered so many concepts with regards to software engineering. So if you have been blessed by my videos, kindly subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any important update, like this video, share, and do not forget to drop a comment. What are some of the challenges you have faced when doing integration with M-PESA API? I will try my best to address some of those issues in this forum, in this channel, in this series. Bye. See you in the next video.